Dopamine. It's the hormone that controls your happiness and drive to achieve your goals. In a recent podcast, Andrew Hubermans, professor at Stanford, talked about activities that increase the release of dopamine in your body. Eating chocolate increases the release of dopamine to 1.5 times above base level. The pursuit and act of sex increases dopamine to 2 times above base level. Smoking nicotine increases dopamine to 2.5 times above base level. Cocaine also increases dopamine to 2.5 times above base level. A workout you really enjoy can also increase the dopamine in your body to 2 times above base level. Doing meth, however, increases the release of dopamine in your body 10 times. So if having sex increases your happiness 2 times, but doing meth increases it 10 times, this means if you want to feel happy and driven, you should do meth, right? Well, yes, but doing meth will make you extremely happy temporarily and leave you depressed afterwards. Dopamine works in a way that when it is released in your body, it will give you happiness and drive. You have a base level of dopamine constantly in your system. This base level of dopamine is based on the amount of dopamine that is available in your body. The moment you have a dopamine release, you'll temporarily feel really happy, but afterwards, because there's less dopamine in your system to sustain the base level, you'll feel worse than before. Exactly is dopamine? Well, dopamine is a hormone in your body that you have because of evolutionary reasons. You have this hormone to stimulate behavior that ensures the survival of your species. So doing things like taking care of your children, looking for food and buying new Yeezys all cause the release of dopamine. In recent years, peak dopamine releases have been taken over by increasingly stimulating activities. These stimulating activities cause lots of small dopamine releases, which in turn causes your base level of dopamine to decline. People that struggle with motivation usually have low dopamine in their system, and almost all people with depression have a very low base amount of dopamine in their system. In order to feel happier, you'll need to up the base level of dopamine in your system. This can be achieved in a few ways. The first thing you can do is limiting the amount of high dopamine releases by stimulating activities in your system. When doing this, your body will have more dopamine in it to sustain a high base level. With a higher base level of dopamine comes more drive and a general better mood.
Your experience of life and your level of motivation and drive depends on how much dopamine you have relative to your recent experience. Every time you do something you like, you eat a piece of chocolate, dopamine hit. You look at your Instagram, dopamine hit. You see someone you like, dopamine hit. You know, all these things described as dopamine hits neglect the fact that if you scroll social media and you see something you really like, dopamine hit. Sure, there's an increase in dopamine. But then you get to something else and you go, not that interesting. However, had you arrived at that second thing first, you might think that it was really interesting. If you had arrived to that second Instagram post 3 days later or 4 days later, you might find it extremely interesting. Again, how much dopamine you experience from something depends on your baseline level of dopamine when you arrive there and your previous dopamine peaks. This is why when you repeatedly engage in something that you enjoy, your threshold for enjoyment goes up and up and up.
Cut out the activities that make you release dopamine but aren't actually helping you achieve the things you want in life. I'm gonna sound like a complete boomer here, but some examples of short dopamine releases happen during scrolling social media, during gaming, or watching porn.
Let's get some Brazilian fart porn in there.
And again, having dopamine releases isn't a bad thing, but having lots of small dopamine releases is, as it destroys your base level of dopamine and you end up feeling worse than before you had the releases. The more dopamine hits you get, the lower the base amount of dopamine left in your system. Scrolling through social media or having hours-long gaming sessions may feel like fun, but in the long term it will actually leave you less happy than before you started scrolling or gaming. Don't get me wrong, some games can still be very fun, but some games are just plainly engineered to get you to play as much of it as possible so you can buy their extra content. These games are basically designed to make you unhappy in the long run. Try to objectively look at the positive and negative effects of these activities and try to decide if it's actually making you happier. Cutting out these
nuts.
Cutting out these stimulating activities that cause lots of small dopamine releases will actually make you happier. Another benefit from doing this is that difficult things become easier to do. Things like working out, studying, or work become more enjoyable when you have a higher base dopamine level. You can even increase the amount of dopamine you release during these difficult activities by telling yourself you enjoy it. I know it sounds like complete nonsense, but I can tell you for a fact this works. So David Goggins always tells you to enjoy the pain.
Merry fucking Christmas!
Well, you can apply this to anything you want done. If you want to study for a test, put your phone away. Study until you don't feel like studying anymore. The moment you feel the urge to stop, notice it. When you notice this urge, force yourself to continue. Continue and tell yourself that you are doing a good thing, which you know you are doing because you need to study. The more often you do this, the more you will enjoy these kinds of activities. These activities will quickly become easier to do. So for myself, I noticed that the game I was playing was just filled with mechanics to make me as addicted as possible, and it was working. Without me even enjoying the game that much, while playing it, I was still playing it almost every day. One of the mechanics in this game that got me so hooked was an intermittent reward schedule, which basically means that when you get alternating rewards for doing the same activity, you release more dopamine. So in FIFA, this is the whole system of packs. You hope for some good players, but you mostly just get shit. This is the same mechanic that gets people so addicted to gambling. Well, you can actually reverse engineer this mechanic to use to your own benefit. In his podcast, Andrew Hubermans gives an example about this for working out. So caffeine can enhance your working out experience. Also, listening to music releases dopamine. So when working out, sometimes consume caffeine, sometimes listen to music, and sometimes do none of these things. You'll force your body to become addicted to the activity. And being addicted to working out isn't a bad thing. So in the past year, I've accidentally been using this intermittent reward schedule during my workout. And it actually worked. I did not even know I was doing this, but nowadays I can't wait to go to the gym. So for me, looking back at a lot of the times I spent gaming by myself, I wasn't actually enjoying the game. I was just chasing the next dopamine hit. And often I felt less happy after a gaming session than I did before. Now it just seems like a long game of Hero Hero from South Park to me.
Oh.
Come on. Come on. You almost got me. Catch me. Come on.
Oh, God damn it. Dad, get off our Xbox.
Hang on, I almost caught the dragon.
Killing someone in Fortnite and calling him the N-word might seem fun in the moment, but in the medium to long term it's not gonna make you happier.
Nigger, 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 nigger.